Break it all down with Doug Prskalo of Blue Capital Group. He trades in the S&P options pit at the Chicago Board Options Exchange. And in our bureau in Chicago, John Brady, Senior Vice President at MF Global. He predicted a second round of Fed bond buying, known as QE2, before the Fed made the announcement. Clearly, he was right. Let me ask you, it's interesting. We get some headlines from the Fed president of Atlanta today saying that there are some serious headwinds here, even though we're seeing some positive eco data, and that they'll need to finish all of QE2. Will there be a QE3, or is this pretty much good enough?
No, I think the jury's still going to be out, Matt, and I think where really the risks lie for the economy into the third and fourth quarter will not just be a slowly adjusting and recovering employment market. There are some structural employment issues that need to be addressed here, but the housing market will most likely continue to act as a headwind against the economy. There's quite a foreclosure pipeline that currently has to be addressed and worked through. Banks are still a little bit reluctant to lend into the real estate market, and of course the economy is not getting the bounce from the lower interest rate policy that we're currently enjoying that usually manifests itself in a bouncing housing market, new employment within housing specifically. So if there is the possibility of QE3 later on this year, it probably comes from the large structural headwind coming from housing. But I think at this stage of the game, it's a little bit too early.
Doug, where are you on QE3 at this point?
I really don't think it's going to happen. I couldn't agree more with the housing situation. I think everything is just based on our housing numbers we get. And I don't see banks freely lending money. And until that happens, I don't think things are going to change right now. But just to push through QE3 because of the housing situation, I think that decision will be made down the road. But I really think it's all based on the housing market. You can't get a loan to buy a house right now, at least from what I'm seeing.
Hey, John, what are you anticipating in terms of earnings? They're kicking off officially, unofficially today with those Alcoa results. How do you think the quarter is going to shape up, and what is that going to mean, kind of the backdrop for financial markets?
I think earnings will be rather positive here, Carol. First of all, you did see the economy put in a very strong performance in the fourth quarter. We finished on a pretty strong note. I think you'll see that in Friday's December retail sales number. Consumption was up smartly. The global economy continues to recover, with specifically Far East Asian nations doing quite well. And with the global economy having done as well as it has in the second half of last year, large cap multinational corporations here in the U.S. stand to benefit. And third, and I think almost most importantly, is that large cap multinational U.S. corporations stand to benefit from the weakness the dollar has seen over the course of the last couple of years. Over the coming quarters, that will translate back into perhaps slightly higher than expected profits as corporations are able to take advantage of that lower dollar on a sequentially year-over-year basis. So we think, if anything, there's probably a little bit of upside risk to earnings coming out of the fourth quarter.
Well, Doug, I asked John about earnings. Where are you? You think it's going to be a pretty good season, and what does it mean kind of for the markets here? Yeah,
I expect good numbers to come out. Earnings that I'm looking forward to hearing are Intel. I think they're out this week, and also J.P. Morgan. That's going to be a big one for us down here. I think they're going to be positive. I don't know if it's going to be enough to spur the market. As I said, there's still a housing mess. I hate to put it that way, but there is. But these numbers, as you see the market, it's just kind of drifting up, but there's no real charge up right now. Also, this retreat in the market today and then to bounce back off, there's a technical number at 1258.25, and we seem to keep bouncing off that and rallying back. So the market overall, what I'm trying to say, is strong, and I don't think the earning numbers are going to push it over the top, but I think the numbers will be good. We're looking forward to J.P. Morgan and Intel right now.
Hey, John, it's Julie here. To bring it back to Alcoa for a minute, what does this tell us about how commodities companies, or commodities and then commodities producers, are going to do this year? The company says aluminum growth rate is going to be 12% for 2011, but aluminum really lagged a lot of the other commodities last year.
Julie, I think you'll see commodity producers and commodity providers probably lead the market this year. Coming out of a credit crisis, your financial sectors will most likely lag. Telecom seems pretty fairly priced, if not fully priced, but because of the inertia of the global economy, specifically developing companies, and specifically also because of the expertise that American multinationals offer developing countries in terms of producing commodities, getting commodities out of the ground and exporting them and transporting them, we think the commodity producers will probably lead to the upside this year in terms of overall market performance.
Hey, Doug, it's Dominic here. You mentioned kind of Intel and JP Morgan here.
Right.
Are you going to put more weight on what happens with those kind of tech and financials than you are with Alcoa here, or is Alcoa kind of what you're looking at or keying on more so on the industrial side of the equation?
Yeah, I'm not. Alcoa, I mean, in all honesty, I've been down here a long time, and that's not my point. My point is Alcoa used to be the big one. And Alcoa, yes, it's important, but there's other factors right now. There's other earnings that are more important. So to answer your question, yeah, Alcoa, those numbers look good, but I think later in the week with Intel and some of the bigger companies, JP Morgan, I put a lot more weight into what we see later in the week. And we also have CPI and PPI at the end of the week, retail sales and consumer sentiment. So there's a lot going on at the end of the week. That's kind of why you're seeing a kind of sideways market right now.
Let me just ask you, though, Doug. I mean, I'm sure you're not surprised when a company surprises on the upside as far as net income, right? On the EPS number, they are almost all going to beat anyway. You got to look at the sales numbers and the things they can't really control.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just, to dissect the numbers, that's probably for people a lot smarter than I am. But, I mean, it depends which way you want to spin it. I do agree with you, but it just depends which way, when you look into the numbers, which way you really want to spin the numbers.